welcome to our special show, Living Long and Healthy with COVID Vaccination. On this show, we seek to address any concerns, any doubts that you may have regarding the vaccination and living in this new normal. Remember, vaccination is the only way that we can protect ourselves and the only way that we're going to collectively defeat this pandemic. We have with us experts and doctors to answer any concerns that you may have. Today on the show, we have with us Dr. R.R. Kasliwal, Chairman, Division of Clinical and Preventive Cardiology at the Medanta Heart Institute, Medanta, Medicity. We also have with us Dr. Anil Kumar, Consultant Cardiologist at VSM Hospital, and Dr. Rajiv Bajaj, Consultant Cardiologist at the Batra Hospital and Medical Research Center in New Delhi. Thank you so much, doctors, for taking time out and joining us on the show today to answer all these doubts. Dr. Kasliwal, I'd like to start with you. Is the vaccination effective and safe in patients with uncontrolled hypertension and heart disease? Because this is a question we get very often.
Yes. So these are two questions you asked. Is the vaccine safe in high blood pressure? And because when you say heart disease, you're encompassing a lot of things. But let me start first. In high blood pressure, as long as the pressures are well controlled, even at a little higher level, the vaccine is completely safe. There is no issue. As far as heart disease is concerned, supposing the patient has got valvular heart disease, for example, and the patient is on anticoagulants, then we should see that the INR level is below the permissible level, and then you can give it. It's perfectly fine. So, in fact, these are the individuals who are more vulnerable and actually require the vaccine more than anyone else. So, you can in a wide variety of cardiovascular diseases, certainly you can give them. And when patients are on just anti-platelet drugs like aspirin or clopidogrel, you can go ahead and give the jabs. There is no issue.
All right, Dr. Anil Kumar, now a question that sounds a little bit silly because, but unfortunately there are many people who believe this. You know, you have WhatsApp, you have all this media that is being shared and you know, information being shared as if it's the truth. So one of the questions that we get is, will the COVID vaccine change the DNA?
Yeah, before I get to that question, we should know the various vaccines that are available to us today. There are basically 4 types of vaccines that are available. The mRNA vaccine, the prototype of the example being the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine or the Moderna vaccine. Then we have the adenovector DNA-based vaccines like the Covishield, the AstraZeneca vaccine, then the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. And then we have the protein type of vaccines like the Novavax, which is only being developed now. And then we have the vaccines based on the inactivated viral particle like the Covaxin, which is available in India. So this question as to whether the DNA vaccine that we inject gets into the human body and then gets incorporated into the person's DNA is a very valid and pertinent question. And therefore, it is a cause for worry. These mRNA and DNA-based vaccines are relatively new vaccines, and they are not the old school kind of vaccines. So the Covishield vaccine, which we have today in India, is an adenovector-based vaccine. Adenovirus is the common flu virus, and in the laboratory when they make the vaccine, they kind of insert recombinant DNA into this adenovirus, and this adenovirus then is programmed to produce the spike protein which is encoded in the DNA. So that's a recombinant DNA encoding the spike protein which is seen on the coronavirus surface, and that is then injected into the human body. And then this goes into our cells. This adenovector, which carries the recombinant DNA, then gets into the nucleus of our human cells, then transcribes the mRNA, which produces or translates into the spike protein, which goes to the surface of the cell of the human cell, which then attracts our immune mechanism. So the B cells and the T cells then recognize the spike protein, which is produced by our own cells, stimulated by the recombinant DNA which was being injected. And therefore, these B cells and the T cells then increase in number and then try to fight this spike protein and then kind of negate it. So that is the entire process of this vaccination and its mechanism. So the question here is whether the injected DNA from the adenovector, it is a non-replicating adenovector, doesn't replicate in the body, will it get incorporated into the human chromosome or the DNA and then start creating problems in future? So that is a very relevant worry. But as far as the data that we have today, this doesn't seem to occur. That is not an area of concern right now. And all these vaccines, all these prototypes have been proven in the real world and have not been associated with any DNA incorporation issues. So as far as data we have today, this is very safe. This doesn't apply to the Covaxin, which is an inactivated, the old school kind of a vaccine, and therefore this question doesn't arise at all. So to sum up, these DNA vaccines are safe, and the data that we have today, this particular problem doesn't seem to hold good.
Dr. Rajiv Bajaj, I'd like to ask you about, for people who are going in for their vaccines, and if they do have some kind of side effects, who should they go to? What should they do?
See, each vaccination center has an appointed doctor who's called the nodal officer. He's supposed to monitor for these so-called adverse events following vaccination, which technically we call AEFI. People who receive the vaccine are expected to stay in the center for half an hour because allergic reactions, which can occasionally be severe, occur soon after the injection. And all facilities are made available in every center for emergency injections, etc., for allergic reactions, which can occur with any medication, but also with vaccines. If a person is unwell after getting the vaccine and after going home, they are expected to reach the emergency department of the center where they got vaccinated, and there, if possible, they should bring all their records of previous medical treatments also. So, because many times an adverse event is related not so much to the vaccines, but to the underlying problems health problems that the patient already had. So if they develop an infection, it could be because of immune compromise. If they have a bit of hematoma or blood collection, that could be because of blood thinners. None of these is a very serious issue, but the monitoring is being done very, very vigilantly, and all the data is being uploaded to the centralized monitoring cells of the country, and all arrangements have been made at the center for the immediate problems as well as for later problems, as well as for collection of the data centrally.
Coming back to you, Dr. Kasliwal, we were speaking earlier about the vaccines in India and how currently we have two of them, Covaxin and Covishield, and our other COVID vaccines in development.
Yeah, regional researchers currently are testing almost 83 vaccines in clinical trials in humans, and almost 23 have reached the final stage of testing. And at least there are 77 or thus preclinical vaccines are also under active investigations. So almost 23 of these vaccines have reached phase 3. So there is a huge excitement in this field, and organizations are going overboard to be able to try to save as many individuals as possible across the world. But to this, I can also add one thing, that though the scientists are working, the virologists are working, we are all working to get a lot of vaccines, but actually many people do not want to get vaccinated. So that's what has to be taken care of, that it is required, it should be taken, and whatever is available, let's say in our country, we should go for it.
All right. Dr. Anil Kumar, talking about people with high blood pressure, should they go ahead and get the vaccine? Is it safe for them?
See, when this pandemic started a year ago, the question as to whether hypertensive patients should be vaccinated, the answer is yes. All patients with hypertension should get vaccinated as early as possible. We have data to suggest that patients who have hypertension are more liable to get COVID infection, more liable to get severe COVID infection, and more liable to die of COVID infection. So therefore, the data which came from the the three main epicenters of the epidemic, one from Wuhan, one from Lombardy, and the other from New York. All of them gave us the message that about 70% of the patients who land up in the ICU with COVID infection have got hypertension. So if you have hypertension, please continue your hypertensive medication. Please get vaccinated at the earliest.
Thank you so much for watching. We're on the show answering all your questions. We'll slip into a short break and return with more of your questions regarding the vaccinations. Welcome back. You're watching our special show, Living Long and Healthy with COVID Vaccination. And we have a panel of doctors answering all your questions and doubts regarding the vaccines. Dr. Rajiv Bajaj, I'd like to ask you, why should people with heart disease or those who've had a heart attack or a stroke get the vaccine?
Well, anybody who's already having a medical problem, it could be a significant heart problem or any other organ, even if your kidneys are having a serious problem or your liver or your lungs, your body is not 100% fit. And any additional illness, whether it is COVID or anything else, it could be typhoid or an injury or even an operation, it cannot be tolerated by a person who is already having a health problem. It is much better tolerated by people who are 100% fit. So these comorbidities naturally mean that if one is unfortunate and contracts COVID, one may not be able to cope with it. And then if vaccination can prevent it or protect us from it, we are safer as a heart patient getting it and protecting ourselves than allowing the COVID to insult our body and put a challenge for the body, which is already having another illness to deal with.
Right. Dr. Kasliwal, if I could ask you now, do blood pressure lowering or lipid lowering medications affect the vaccine? Do people have to consult their doctors ahead of that or tweak their medication when they're getting the vaccine?
No, most of our patients, cardiac patients, will be on anti-lipid agents or are hypertensive patients. And as has been discussed by the panel also very appropriately, that we should ask these patients to go ahead and get vaccinated because they are more vulnerable. They are the vulnerable population. Of course, it can be from any disease, but particularly of these diseases. And as has been seen abroad also, that they were the ones who had severe disease and were on ventilators more than other people. So these vulnerable people, population, should definitely get vaccinated. And obviously, as has been pointed out, they don't have to stop their ARBs or ACE inhibitors. They should just keep on taking the meds that they are on and get their vaccination done.
All right, Dr. Rajiv Bajaj, why do so many of COVID patients pass away due to heart attacks?
See, any illness, whether it is COVID or it's typhoid or it's an injury, whatever happens to the body responds by getting ready for an emergency. Any emergency for the body increases the clotting. And COVID itself is treated as an emergency by the body. So the clotting system is active. Clots can form more readily. If any artery is having minor injuries, whether it's in the brain or in the heart, a clot can form. And a heart attack or a brain attack is most often the formation of a clot in an artery leading to stopping of flow. If there's no oxygen delivered to any part of the heart or the brain, it shuts down, and that's what a heart attack or a brain attack is. And that will be more common in any fever, definitely so in COVID.
All right. Dr. Anil Kumar, recently the duration between the two doses of the Covishield vaccine was increased. If you could explain to viewers why this was done.
This was basically done because the data from trials have shown that the ideal duration between the first and the second dose should be in the range of 8 to 12 weeks. The explanation is that because I already told you the basic the mechanism by which the Covishield acts. Covishield is an adenovirus vector. That means it's a common cold virus into which the DNA is infused, and that DNA goes and does the whole job of stimulating our immune system. So the important steps are that the adenovirus should get into the human cells. Now, once an adenovirus gets into the human body develops an antibody to the adenovirus as well. Not only the spike protein that we are interested in, but also to the adenovirus. So if you get an injection on day 1 today, and then by about 7 to 10 days, the antibodies against the adenovirus start increasing. And that probably peaks by about 4 to 8 weeks. So if you give the second dose of your adenovirus vector in the form of the second dose of Covishield, what happens is as soon as the injection is delivered to the body then fights the adenovirus vector and then totally negates it. So there is no time for this adenovirus to get into the human cell and then stimulate the mRNA to produce the corona spike protein. So therefore, the second dose is essentially kind of negated. So you don't get the booster dose at all. So if you look at the Sputnik, the vaccination, what they've done is the first dose adenovirus is a particular strain, the 25 strain. And the second dose, what they've done is they've given us another strain, that is the adenovirus 5 strain, to which these antibodies will not act. So therefore, if you're giving a Sputnik virus, I think we are now talking to the Russians to deliver those vaccines, in which case this 28 days or 4 weeks will not be an issue. But if you give a Covishield vaccine, the second dose should ideally be a bit delayed so that the antibodies against the vector adenovirus kind of goes down, and therefore the second dose can be more effective in delivering the DNA into the human cell and then stimulating our immune system to fight the corona spike protein. Do you get my point?
Sure. Yes, doctor. And it was after it was observed that the antibodies or the protection is better with that increased duration between the two doses. Dr. Kasliwal, if we talk about the last year, there were a lot of people who put off operations because of the pandemic. Everybody was very frightened. We were under lockdown as well for a big part of the year. So now should these people go ahead and get these operations done? Is it safe for them?
What's happening now is, and now you can say that there's a second wave, so it's again unsafe. But like in our own hospital, what we've done is that the non-COVID areas are totally different than the COVID areas. So the staff and the doctors and the nurses are different. So the answer is that if you are suffering, if you've got a heart attack or you have 3-vessel disease, if you need a surgery, don't hold back. Do a video call and say, Doc, these are my apprehensions, but go ahead. If you're getting recurrent pains or discomfort, you should be in the hospital. And of course, you will do a corona testing will be done. And then once that's found normal, then you will be, then you will have a surgery as you would otherwise. Because holding back will mean that you will damage your heart, or if you are having an issue in the brain or in the colon or anywhere. So I think that the pandemic will hopefully this year or early next year will come to an end. But till then, those critical diseases which need urgent, immediate treatment, just go talk to your doctor. If you're not so sure, get them on the internet or your video, let them satisfy you, and then go ahead, because sometimes it can be a disaster, as has happened in many cases. So if your question was, during this period, can I get, let's say, a surgery done or an angioplasty done? I'm saying, yes, you can. You should if you're getting recurrent symptoms. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, doctors, for taking time out and answering all those questions and doubts regarding the vaccine. And do remember the message is that go ahead and get yourself vaccinated to protect yourself from the disease. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.